going towards something more like the Ashe would be better for you. However, they banned away the Varus this time. Maybe that says that actually they want to run back the Lucian army, just not against a Varus lane, to see what they can do in its stead.
But then you're going, what? You're opting into the Zeri Yubi lane. You're opting like
Yumi's in that. You could even go towards the Lulu. You could, there's so many things which can bring out that. Bot lane is a lot of these duos which we've seen quite a lot in the past. Now we're getting quite familiar.
Not a Felios Jinx.
Okay, no. I actually quite enjoyed that because they were quite explosive.
Whoa! That'll get you cancelled, Nightmare. That'll get you canceled.
They can damn well try because at least they were explosive and easy to catch out. They weren't like infinite sustain like the Zeri Yumi lanes or something like that too.
I
felt like there was at least some counterplay.
Fight about this. I actually really like the Zeri lanes because they were really fun. Anyways, we're gonna move past that as we have our first pick of the game. TT, go ahead and grab that Maokai. Very strong pick on the table. Was hugely successful last game for Hung, for Team WE. But that means that WE feel confident to pick the Lucian Nami bot lane for Hope and Iwandi.
And that's the Zeri in response as well. Is it going to be with the Yuumi? So it is. Right, so this is a bit of a flipping of the script in multiple ways because when WE had the Maokai, they also had the winning bot lane. They had the push from the Varus and the Karma, which allowed Hung to really control that one side of the map, get that first dragon in place as well, and allow Iwandi to roam up the river from bot lane to influence the rest of the map, which is where the game really fell apart from TT. On this side now, the Maokai's not going to be playing with a pushing bot lane. You have to assume with the Zeri Yuumi, unless something goes horribly, horribly wrong. At this point though, we have bot lane and junglers locked in for both sides. We haven't got early pick mid laners. We haven't got early pick top laners. I think it was the Cassante on 3 from WE last time. So potential stuff for something like that Renekton again. Removed immediately. Something like the Azir could also be very important too, to give at least something of a pushing lane towards TT. But WE have the first pick here. I would expect them to go towards something more like that Azir, to control that mid lane in a way that they didn't have in that last game from Shanks, actually. I think that would work very well for the fight.
And I'm interested at the second phase priorities here in terms of bans. We get the Kassadin banned by TT, so putting some more stock in the mid lane. Cassante, the ban by EWE. We'll be waiting on that final ban. I would expect another mid laner here.
It could be. So Kassadin to me also it kind of signals something like a Sylas coming in as a response. I wonder if they ban the Azir just to say, look, we don't really want you to have the push in mid lane, even though something like Sylas or Azir Sylas or Akali can work well into that pick. Instead, they're going to ban away the Syndra. For me, it has to be the Azir. It's long range. Long range. It's shoving early. This might open up something like the Akali from UCal himself, but that does mean you're probably losing push in mid and bot, which is a little bit dangerous again. When we talk about that Maokai, who's not really the proactive jungler early, can't really bail out those lanes as easily against a Vi. You could go towards something like UCal's Talia, which he has been very, very famous for over his career. He was one of the very best Talias in the world in Season 8 when he really exploded onto the scene. And that would give you some, at least, combative push pressure against the Azir from Shanks.
I would wonder what they actually get here. Okay, so it's going to be the Gwen for Hoya, looking at that top side of the map. So I again, maybe you get something really strong.
AD mid is probably the play now, though, because you have
I would
AP,
say
Gwen,
you got
AP.
the two APs.
Zeri has moved more towards the AD now with the changes that they had, but the Gwen, of course, really does over-amplify things on that front. So it's actually going to be the Jace. So you don't have the best poke composition, but you have saplings and you have the Jace. That's something to play around.
So at this point, I mean, do you just go with something I guess you feel comfortable with? I mean, team setup, maybe early game focus for top side for WE? And it's actually the Nara.
I mean, I think you're just happy just having 3 potentially pushing lanes early, aren't you, with a Vi?
So what I'm seeing is they're going with the comp TT tried to execute last time, and they're going to just execute it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. I mean, WE, they looked down that comp and they said, okay, we'll just mash you through bot, and then as soon as you make a mistake, we'll snowball the game away from you. But in this game, it's not even like you have obvious spikes to out-skirmish like WE had last game, because with the Akali, as soon as you hit level 6, as soon as you hit your first item, you have real dive threat onto the backline. I don't think you have the same here. I think maybe Hoya on the Gwen can do some pretty horrific things if you get towards 2-3 items on a pretty good tempo. But unless you have that, you don't have obvious spikes which kind of outvalue what particularly the Lucian, Nami, and the Vi can bring in that early game. So I'm quite worried again for TT. This is going to be a difficult one to play out.
Yeah, I think it definitely will be. And especially with the way that we saw kind of last game go, I do wonder. I mean, all eyes obviously on WE because TT didn't find anything early on with the Vi last time around, and it did not work out. So this time around, especially very important. But the biggest thing for me is the fact that Hope and Iwandi are confident to pick this Lucian Nami, off the back of TT trying to pilot it, and feeling confident enough to bring it out for the first time of the split, but as well as just this combo that's going to be a lot differently played, I feel like, than the Karma Varus was.
And it's good to show that variety, good to show that you are more than just that kind of like that one color of bot lane. And putting it back towards these players, nameplates on as well. We kind of joked about this when we came into this game, says, it is a time of great change and all the big dramatic kind of text scrolls and stuff like that. But if you are going to solidify yourself as a contender, if you are going to raise yourself above that middle pack, now is the time to do it above all else when these teams are already rebuilding across the entire league.
Yeah, the gyos coming out a little bit more synchronized this time. I actually heard them. There we go. But as we come into it here, it is going to be looking like the opposite
It's like a
side
battle
starts
cry.
to
Okay, if you had a battle cry, Mazel, like if
Yeah.
you were your own like warlord leader, what would you have a gyro?
I really like the Pantheon theme song when he got reworked.
Oh, that's
Like that thing. I did it on broadcast one time. It sounded really dumb, but honestly, it was pretty cool. So I'd probably go with that, something like that. I don't actually play Pantheon though.
Yeah. So, okay, as fun as that is, actually, Yukon gets a really good trade at level 1 here. Jace is a champion which typically struggles into mage matchups because you don't get to do that at level 1, but gets to go through the hammer form and then into the Mercury Cannon form too, and that is actually pretty big. Have to track how that affects this mid lane going on.
Yeah, it obviously has been big, but now we're getting to the 1v1 or 2v2s in bot side. Cleanse already used by Hope there, as the Ignite was popped down by Shin Liu, but it should be just right as rain. Tried and typical of the bottom side just for tradings until Hope and I want to get to that level 2.
So, it isn't going to be Hope and I one day controlling the bot lane for now, and actually mid lane, again, as we said, from that level 1 trade, going further in favor of Yukal than potentially we would have thought. So, once again, script a little bit different from that first game. TT, they have to step up. They have to show something more than that first game and how they can play around these early pushing lanes, and this is the start of something.
And a little spicy down here on the Hope. I was going to ask you if you actually like the Jace answer into the Azir, but we'll see if bot lane actually gives us a little bit more to bite down on as Beishwan actually making his way. Does clear out the warding there, will be spotted out.
Yeah, in terms of the Jace into the Azir, typically we have seen some poke champions into the Azir in the past. Varus mid very famously was the kind of the Season 5 answer into the Azir way back then when Azir was released. But I was worried that you wouldn't be able to have early lane pressure or the ability to threaten this Azir early on, but with Beitran making a early visit and early look in towards this mid lane, maybe they could start something a little bit more threatening here.
Thanks, taking a decent one, but he just walks out Beishwan. Not fast enough to catch in on the Yukal's engagement. We'll see Hung on the other side, though, has been farming away at Beishwan's jungle after they did spot him out. Actually going to be given this side, as I believe we'll just have that kind of vertical jungling style going on here early on.
Yeah, this is definitely a little bit of a change. Of course, someone like a Gwen or a Gnar, they can play with less resources on their side of the map if it does go towards something a little bit more vertical jungling.
Oh, not gonna go for it.
I'm not sure we're going to have a full dive opportunity, though, to kind of capitalize on this state of the jungle.
I'm glad he goes back in at least for the blue. I was a little bit curious if he was going to just let that whole side stay and Hung just gets a massive advantage in jungle. Looks like he will be able to pick apart the pieces there. Ball Dragon spawning in a minute. Last time, it was WE that put a big focus on it because they have the bigger scaling advantages. I feel like TT might be wanting to kind of change that a little bit going in Game 2 and put a little bit more focus on the other objectives.
That was a lot easier, though, for WE because they did have that Varus Karma who won very early on, and they kind of used that to leverage the rest of the map. And now we have to see from WE, okay, you don't have that same level of control on that bot side because of the way that the spot lane worked out. You're not able to have Iwandi roaming across the map as he did on that Karma to destabilize the rest of things. TT very much have a better platform themselves to fight back in this second game, and well, we've already kind of said that they needed to. It's still a good start. It's something that we needed to see more of from them.
I think as a whole, right, in this one, we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Actually, Hung making a potential foray in the top side here. BuBu trying to bait out with this really awkward lane state here, as Hoya actually just going to not take the lead. Luckily enough, we don't get the fighting at top lane that we've maybe wanted for 2 games now.
No, we're left on an island here. This is the outer rim.
It's just an island, man. BuBu is doing fine. Hung just wanted to make sure his coconut was topped off.
I'm sorry, what?
You know when you're on an island?
Okay, all right.
Stuff like that. It was a deep reference, all right?
It's probably not. It's just that I don't go outside very much, and I don't have many coconut beverages, I suppose. But either way,
how many coconuts do you have?
I don't even like coconut that much, so not many.
All right. Well, that's another conversation for another time. So on the way to the bottom side is Hung going towards his blue side of the jungle. We do have actually bottom side almost one point getting caught up. The bubble does land on Xin Liu. Xi'an did capitalize on the movement of bottom lane to start up the dragon now.
And now those fruit really help TT kind of look towards a big play here as well. Both junglers on the bot side, no junglers coming in.
Oh my god, Hope got stopped by the minion there, and Hope in some trouble, but putting damage back on Huanfeng. Iwandi wants to chase down, so does Hung. He gets a little bit of damage on Beishuan, but Sapling's going to do
mid lane is coming
here. Yeah, they are. Looks like a flash over the wall from Hung will get him out of there.
This bot lane control has been so key towards the first 2 games. It really has been. It wasn't so much an arm wrestle in game 1. It was just kind of like a bit of a concession from TT. They just kind of lost. They couldn't really play around the bot side of the map. This time it is much more of an arm wrestle. It is much more of a back and forth. Summoners blown, big trades, but no kills so far. Gonna see Beishuan and his bot lane walk towards this dragon again. This time I think they will just be able to take it. No contest coming through from this one. But because it's been delayed, and because we've seen this being taken slower than that first game, we actually might see the ability for WE to respond with a Herald contest, even though they couldn't contest that dragon in the first place. And that's not something that we saw in that first game.
Yeah, I think the contesting of objectives will be really crucial here. And I do want to highlight Hung is slowly and steadily building up his CS advantage in the jungle matchup there. I think that will be something crucial to kind of keep an eye on. He is level 6 now. Obviously going to get a reset off, but getting back on the map will be important. Yucal has made a trip to the island to steal BuBu's coconut. We'll see if he can do so. Oh, the knockback. Nicely done. And first blood to TT.
Oh, slam dunks him back into his former teammate, reunited again on TT of Hoya. Yucal and Hoya play together back in the LCK. Get themselves a good first kill in this second game against WE, and it's an important one. This Jace far outvaluing what I thought it would do on paper. Yucal taking a bit more of a specialty pick, bit more of a pocket pick. Don't see it as much around the world right now, but he's making it work.
It's working out beautifully so far. Early advantage there with that movement from the mid lane. Now Shanks moving himself down towards the bottom lane. As Beishuan is here, there's this bubble on top. Huanfeng just has no hope. They get one trade back, though. Hope dies. Final chapter's coming out. They get 2. Beishuan with a double. They're going to find a triple here, too. Iwandi very slowly trying to walk out. The bubble actually connects. He'll survive. Yucal's coming to make sure he cannot, though. See the accelerated shock blast comes through. No, the hammer slam flashed out of Iwandi. You need to dodge. He does, but it doesn't matter. You got duped, and Yucal picks up the kill.
Oh, Iwandi, he dips, ducks, dodges, and dies. They go way too far into that turret, and Beishuan, though he was playing second fiddle in that first game, being the person who was punished on the overdives, he hands back exactly the same treatment to WE in this second game. TT, this has really been a much more concerted early game. Slam back from Yucal on that top side, going back towards that kill up there, the first blood. But the most important thing for me is how this response came in towards this bot side. WE, they look toward this bot lane, try and shut down this area in such an important way. But we were talking about this in terms of the Vi versus the Maokai jungle matchup. If Maokai ever turns up to a play that Vi's out and gets to counter the play, particularly post-6, things get so dangerous, and this leads to a crushing play against WE in Game 2.
Working out beautifully for TT, as we said earlier. Now, it was a Rift Herald picked up by Hung during that replay, so at least something going the way of WE. The early stacking, early advantage is definitely in the favor of TT so far with that 1.4 so K lead, at least 1,000 now as well. But I still think the Rift Herald being on the pockets of WE, they have a lot going forward for them for the next couple minutes. You have Dragon coming up in 2 minutes. You can utilize that as a strategy.
Definitely something to be taken into account next time the big plays are happening. That's the big thing I like to talk about with Herald, actually. It's like, as much as the Herald is a big play, it's also a big threat. It's kind of that, the sword of Damocles, if you ever heard of that reference, in terms of old Greek myth of king sat on a throne, but the only way he could have his throne is there's a giant sword attached by a thread above his head, and at some point this thread will snap, and obviously the sword will fall and kill him. The Herald is kind of that as well, because you're sat there and you're like, haha, I can make a big play. Yeah, we might lose like a turret and 5 plates on the other side of the map if we do that at the same time. It's just something that always has to be taken into account, particularly when you're on the aggressive side of things with the Vi against the Herald. It makes things very awkward. We saw that in Game 1. It's not necessarily the case in this time, because when you have the Maokai, you're happy to be responding to plays with your ultimate anyway. This just, again, something that you just need to just have in mind at all times.
Keep that one in mind for sure. We do have our first items coming across here. Obviously, the crown completed a little bit earlier by Shanks, the Eclipse by Yucal. We have Mnemonic Embrace and the Kempung Chainsword for Xi'an and Hung, respectively. So at least a little bit more strength in these trades back and forth, as he's definitely put his presence around mid lane, prepping up for this dragon.
Yeah, well, you're getting the minefield set up again. Hoya looking towards this top side. No Mega, pops the Ghost, pops the ults.
This is really rough for BBU. Oh, mid lane though. Xi'an gets caught out here. The Emperor's Divide doesn't matter. The final chapter on top. Nature's Grasp, all the CC. The bubble! Iwandi comes up clutch, and WA right back in it, Nightmare.
Oh, if only that cat had a 10th life, maybe they could have made it out of that one. Not to be the case. The big play goes against TT. The Herald goes down, and that sword hanging by a thread drops on top of them. They lose the mid lane play, they're going to lose that dragon, and the top side play as well from Hoya doesn't work out to anything. As much as TT have had a much more concerted, controlled early game, WE walk away with a huge advantage. This is going to give them extra ability to get extra gold onto this Azir, who is key to their composition in terms of their damage profile. Stacking up those objectives as well, this takes away a lot of what's been built up in the early game from TT. And I understand why they're playing for this. I understand why they're playing for the objective setup. They're looking towards trying to control the river themselves, but they don't have eyes on Hung, and Hung, once again, makes a game-changing play in this series.
Honestly, it's been such a great series to watch from Hung as a whole. The first game on Maokai just kind of being everywhere Xi'an wanted to be, and now in this game, taking that vibe from game number 1 and finding ways to come back in a game that started to feel like TT were grabbing control of earlier on. Now you do still have to factor in a lot of scaling on TT, a lot of power coming through later on, and I think with at least the 1-1 dragon score, things like this, objectives going their way to some extent, it's still something to look forward to for TT.
Yeah, but they will definitely be ruining that opportunity, because if they were stacking the dragons, then that's something which allows them to... one of the most dangerous things about a Maokai and this kind of defensive range composition when you have to dive into a Maokai, into a Gwen, into Jace poke, stuff like that, is being able to play defensively. They're not able to do that here. They're just not.
Oh, wait, he doesn't die? He doesn't die? Xi'an goes in? Yukon wants to go back at least. Maybe get, oh, Shanks with the flash, the quick moves, and both mid laners getting out by the skin of their teeth.
I was so utterly convinced that Yuka was just going to get absolutely decked in that play, but he ends up living, very importantly so. Now we have to see what happens in the 2v2. Maybe it's their turn to fight. They're looking for it.
They knew that was coming. Huanfeng was baiting it out there. Culling does do a decent amount back. Huanfeng will be healing that one up.
Some fancy feet means that Huanfeng is not going to catch the majority of the shots from that, which means that the 2v2 a bit more even. Nice piercing light through to Just add an extra little bit of damage on top, but both these teams being much more proactive than that last game. We saw things kind of slow down as WWE took a much more reserved approach on the Maokai side of this jungle matchup in that game 1. Now we're kind of setting up for the next big play. Fairly even in gold, fairly even in items, big item breakpoints coming out. When you see a Lucian Nami hit that first item spike, you really are looking for those big ultimate combos coming through, but TT managed to survive that for now. I'm really looking for those ultimates to come off cooldown again with that Vi and seeing if WE can find once again TT overextending maybe for the next Dragon. Maybe that's a good way to look at things. Maybe the next Herald as well in 30 seconds. Those are the big timers you're looking for. WE, look for those big ultimate spikes to see what they can do with them.
You have the training force just completed for preview. We still have a little while till the next little scuffle happens, at least, with a major focus for WE towards the bottom side of the map. I do want to go ahead and bring up this dive that could potentially happen here on Hoya. But not going to find it, at least. They walk away.
Walks away. Did he just walk away slowly? Yes, he did. He just walks away from the turret. And, like, as much as Hoya has not been the focus and he's been on Coconut Island. He's just been sat around enjoying his beverage. He's been pretty okay, just been able to soak some pressure, able to stay safe. The top lane hasn't been the focus of this series. It has really been about the key players we brought up right at the start. Hope, Huanfeng, trying to see if you can get them a platform to play the rest of the game off of. And has meant that the top laners, as they so frequently do in modern League of Legends, find themselves waiting until the later stage of the game to really impact things.
One day they'll be relevant. Just look for the future. But I do want to check in on something, a big part that we were kind of following into this one was kind of the mid laners, how they interact with jungles, and what kind of style we see from both these teams. I think we were still looking for a lot of structure from both of them. And to my surprise, my pleasant surprise, we've seen a lot of focus in mid lane, right? It's not necessarily just been Shanks and Yukao moving out, right? We have seen some good moves, but it's interesting to see that kind of adaptation to focusing mid lane as Shanks put some decent damage down on the would-be seizures of WE.
Oh, is that going to crash? I think it is. They do actually end up getting that damage. So lots of threat now from WE. If they leave one wave alone in mid, that's how it goes down. They need to have someone present there in mid lane for as long as possible at this point. Hoya, while that Herald was dropped, was safely in the side lane. Didn't have the teleport to instance the play, but doesn't need to be there to, once again, just be chilling on the side lane, make something work. However, Baytron wants to force the tempo up a little bit, fires the ult out.
Okay, decent amount of damage here, and they can't do anything to save Haiwandi. Bew might be able to find a little bit of damage. Already used Meganar now, and getting chunked down. Flash forward from Huanfeng. He gets cease and assisted. The tower's down, but so is Huanfeng. And next goes the tree, and next goes TT. Hoya, big game changer in the moment. Those shakes goes down, and so does the rest of WE. You never thought Hoya would come in, did ya? And he does, changing it.
He didn't have the teleport. We were just sat there thinking, yeah, well, he's left alone on his island. The island has crash landed into the mid lane. Prepare for his arrival. Slams through the ultimate. And you know how that's possible? The extended blast cone range. We're on that Chemtech Rift again. He flies it over the wall later into that play. Watch your eyes, keep your eyes peeled for that one, because TT, they forced the play on this one. They used that Maokai ultimate. They catch that out of position. It's a pretty good intro into this fight, all things said and done. Particularly because, actually, while we're looking at all this, Lucian's not there either. This is not an uneven numbers fight. It's actually even numbers at the start of it, because Hope isn't there at the start of it. Hadn't even caught that in live. That was a very important factor to take into account. And TT, though they lost it, felt like the last big play, particularly around the Herald before that last one. They managed to claw something out, and once again, we find ourselves in a very even game for this game 2.
Oh, Hong trying to get in there, get the steal, does not. That'll be second Dragon taken by TT. Be on their way to stacking it up here. And yeah, a little calmness coming after the chaos. Really interesting play setup from TT. A lot of communication needed in that one. And I think maybe a little zealousness from Huanfeng, but as a whole, to be able to clean that one up for Hoya, get more gold in the side lane, just empowers the composition of TT.
Yeah, and we're actually at the point now where, kind of to call back to what we were saying in draft, one of the things which we called out was, you got 3 potentially losing lanes against a Vi who can start exploding the map. That's not really what's happened this game, though, because Yukao has really performed well on this Jay. He's got that really good level 1 trade. Huanfeng as well stepped up, been doing very well in that laning phase too, and we've seen Hoya as well pick up a lot of gold too. TT have overcome that early trough you expect to see from this composition and are now very much in a position where they can fight because it is an even game. You don't expect it from these compositions, which means that in the next couple of minutes, much as we saw from the last couple of Maokai ultimates, you can expect TT to have a good amount of leverage to make big plays, to look for a big cleanup fight for Azeri, look for that Maokai ult to catch someone out of position. But
this
WE pulling the trigger next.
We have 2 item spikes pretty much across the board for WE, and they are pouncing with it. Huanfeng in trouble too, over the wall! He's going down, son! Shin Liu's down 2, double kill for Hope! And just like that, the snap of a finger, you lose everything for TT.
Ruthless pounce from Team WE. We were praising TT for overcoming the early slump, but the playmaking is still there. Hung finds the target. Shanks finds the target. They get onto the key carries, and now it's on Hoya to stop the Baron.
Hoya and Yucal against the world here, trying to stop an early Baron. 2,000 health. I don't think they can do it. Hoya getting poked out, tries to get the needlework in there, but the Baron, ooh, one more shock blast. It goes over securely to Hung.
What a wonderful punish from WE. TT had just split the map. They just split the map, played on multiple lanes, and we're going to go back into replay to see how all of this happens. Yucal is on one lane, Hoya is on another, and this is where the big mistake comes out. TT, they don't need to be pushing up this far. You can face check better with your saplings. You don't have to have everyone walking up without being able to respond. A momentary blip of decision-making leads to an incredible turn of play and power play from WE, who pounce just so ruthlessly.
And the thing is again, I had said it going into that one, there were 2 items completed pretty much across the board. I mean, BuBu's still lacking on his, but the fact that we had the Rapid Fire completed, the Morellos, everything, even the Radiant Virtue completed for Hung, they knew that this was a power spike. They knew that Beishwan hadn't gone back and completed an item yet. It still hasn't, right? And I think the difficulty is that moment of execution that's important.
That execution might just be the executioner's block for TT. They're pulling out the ult, but they're not going to find the mark. The Dragon spawn in 2 minutes. They weren't even fighting for an objective. I have some lines every so often, but that was overzealous. You look at this and you think, okay, TT, they're in a really difficult spot now because they're trying to stave off the rest of this Baron push. They've just used the Maokai ultimate again now, though, which means that they can't make another big play to stop this full court press coming in from WE. They're wrapping around the back of this mid lane in a turret. They're taking over the entire bot side of the map. And while Yucal is on a side lane, sat 2-0 and 3 and getting advantages, Yucal individually has done well, but what we saw and what we were asking for in terms of Beishwan and Yucal linking up hasn't really been present. Yucal has been doing well on his own. Beishwan's had some good individual plays, but they're not on the same page. And WE, they are punishing that, they're exploiting that, and they're pushing into the base.
I mean, they're losing a tier 2 top, but they will gladly take an inhib here, and if this keeps going, maybe they can even just end the game. I mean, they have another minute for Baron. They're going to take the inhib tower in mid lane too. Now we have Yucal backing, as they have already done lasting damage to the base of TT.
And they don't have the Maokai ult. Again, it's not like, again, you can throw the Maokai ult to them and say, yeah, we'll make a big play as they walk out of the base. TT, they choose to take some top lane towers for 2 inhibitors down. And those are 2 inhibitors on the side of the map, which you're fighting around this dragon for. Now, in some miracle world, you take this next dragon and you look for the next one, but that is almost impossible to do with 2 lanes of super minions firing into your base when you're trying to set up for this objective. This is disastrous now for TT. It really did come down to that one moment of discoordination between side laners and the group in the mid lane. WE, though, really doing well to punish them on that front. And now they're in a position to take this dragon, push in these waves again, work with the last of their Baron buff to get this priority, and force things into their advantage.
TP's coming into the mid lane. That will be Hoya locked up by the bubble. Nature's Grasp also down. We said how crucial that cooldown is for TT. Will be down for a little while now. You also have Hullbreaker completed in the side lane for BuBu. He will be a menace to be dealt with.
Absolutely. It isn't just the team fights where they need to be afraid at this point, even though Jace is doing well in that side lane. Great call on pointing out that Hullbreaker. Dragon's going to go over to WE. Absolutely no contest. Too much vision, too much pressure. In WE, they are just doing this by the book. There is no reason to overplay themselves. They don't have to worry about the Maokai ult. TT, once again, throw that out, and they don't really make the most of it. The poke is good, but
this is scary.
Where are the options left for them?
Wait! Oh, Hung gets it! Xi'an tried to go in and get everything, but now on the top side of the map, we got an in trouble Hope who flashes away from Hoya. View on the side, Shanks trying to go for the big play, can't find it.
It was actually almost a good play. Maokai is going to die after he tries to go for the steal. Xi'an tries to go in and get themselves that objective. As we said, it was going to be very hard to look for that objective secure. Gets much more close than I thought it would be, but now you have to deal without having a jungler. Once again, not having that all-important Maokai ult. WE, they see the lack of that threat. They walk towards this turret. They should be looking to close out the game soon.
Cal wants to make something happen here. 2-0 and 2-0 for Hoya and UCal respectively. They really find a way in. They can have a big team fight. We saw it a little bit earlier on, but right now it just feels like WE have so much of a stranglehold on the map. They'll go ahead and get their backs in. Probably complete some of those third items everywhere else and get back onto the map, get everything pushed in as that last tower on the top side still bearing the name of TT. And I wonder if they just want to go ahead and close that one out or try and push through one of the open lanes.
Yeah, well, that's the very little amount of real estate which TT still have. They got the Nexus turrets, they got that top lane inhibitor, and that's it. It's a big problem because it means that TT can't actually spread the map and maybe play around a strong Jace on a side lane. They don't really have the ability to leave their base at this point and use the Maokai saplings set up for a defense. They're going to have to be playing on the back foot for the rest of this game. It really is on WE now to just make sure that stranglehold continues and make sure that TT don't have a clean way back into this game. The only way that TT get back into this game is by miracle objective steals at this point, or some macro mistake from WE leading to maybe someone like Hope out of position against Hoya, against Xi'an, who can lock them up in time. But that hasn't been easy to come by for TT.
I love it. I love when you can just tell, like, inherently players know because they play this game so much, like, in there. I'm going to say hi by just standing here. And just, like, let them bait it out. I love it so much. And we do need to see this pressure from WE dealt with by TT because they have Bubu pushing the side lane. Now WE are forcing another Baron, and it looks like TT want to. They're a bit split, right? They're sending UCal to the side lane. Now they're bringing forward here.
I don't think they can finish that. That's a little bit awkward. You have Nara on the side lane. That's great. You force TT out of their base, but it's not like you're taking down an inhib because they're already down.
Here it comes.
Oh, they find the gap.
TP's coming in as well from UVU to try to catch down Hoya here. Hope dashing to get in there. A little bit of everything used by WE in that situation. Shanks did find a little bit of promise poke on the other side, but Baron right back on the table for WE.
Well, as much as that looks a bit messy, and it is pretty messy, they get the Gwen ult, they get the Maokai ult. Those are the two big threats which you need to look for. TT taking an uphill battle in an uphill game.
They're just going to go for it. Xi'an, he's in the pit. He doesn't get it. Denied yet again as their base crumbles before them, and they write home letters of salvation. TT might be able to find a little bit of something with this poke, but they back away as WE don't want to deal with the combo of the Jace and the Zeri, but they might have caught out Hoya here. Maybe a little bit low. Hoya taking a lot of damage in the end. And the minions did get cleared out by the towers at least, so TT survive another day.
And you know what? For a minute there, it looked like it was okay for TT from a certain point of view. And then you realize actually they'd used their big ultimates again. I really like how WE in this game have taken away that Maokai ult and made sure that they don't have to play around it in these big fights. Now they have themselves that Baron, they have themselves, if they really want to go towards that Dragon, they can, I suppose. I feel like they should be able to close out this game with this last of this Baron buff, though. WE, maybe not as clean around the actual final death of this game, putting it to bed, but they are still in that good, overwhelming position where they should be able to seal this 2-0.
Yeah, last game we were talking about how can they close out a very strong lead. Well, not as strong of a lead, not about 10,000 gold, but still very strong as a whole. And we're seeing them kind of pick apart the wave states right now. A little bit of aggression with the trio in mid. We got side lane pushing for Buvu as well as Shanks over in the bottom side. It'll be a close, quick finish. One more fight from TT on the horizon.
One more for. Well, they do have their ultimates this time. That's something we should, of course, we've called out. WE doing very well taking away, making sure there is no Maokai ult, no Gwen ult. The Maokai ult's actually going to come out again. Can they fight against it?
They actually caught Hope and Iwandi. That's a big wombo combo.
Huge.
They got the back line. Shank's in some trouble here as well. He can't get Hwanbong. Maybe he does. He goes down. It goes golden. Maybe he survives. He does not. That'll be another pickup for Hoya. And the base defense comes alive with Hope and Iwandi getting caught out.
But they've done so well this whole game at not playing into the Maokai ult, of not playing into the Gwen. You know, we talked about a New Hope. This is Hwanfeng Strikes Back. The Zeri has 3 items now. And the one time where the ultimates are available, TT do an awesome job of finding their own ability to thread the needle. This is such an overstep. Maybe they thought this game was done. And for all intents and purposes, if they played it out the way they had done so far, it should have been the WE split. They get caught out by the Maokai ult. They've done such a good job of denying beforehand. And they just get exploded.
Yeah, I mean, Beishwan was waiting for a good minute for that play, and it ends up being worth it. I think, obviously, lack of positional awareness for Team W, I would say, in that situation. But now, with the couple backs more completed, we have the IE now for Hope, we have the GA now for Hung, and back onto the map goes WE, still very much in the lead.
They are still very much in the lead. But TT take a dragon off of that. They're now on Soul Point themselves. It's extra stats. Believe Chemtech Dragon, the base one, I keep forgetting the exact stats it gives. I believe it gives some tenacity, and I believe it gives some resists as well, which are not insignificant in this game. And now you suddenly got the point where the bigger thing is you've delayed things. You've delayed things to get actually Hoya to a point where they're at a strong point. This Gwen has been a factor in this game, despite having been relegated to a side lane against BOB for various points in this game. TT have items. You can see the damage which Yucal has. You can see the damage which Hoya has. And this game is not actually as out of sight as we were calling just a minute ago.
Yeah, it's, the turtle defense is actually working out for TT right now. And we see the back actually come through from Hoya. This should be the final tower, going down the final inhib tower at least. And WE actually working on the key tower now. They'll fight onto base 1. Hoya is here as well to separate the fight. Hung needs to get out of there. He does still have the GA though. Hwanfeng trying to get it pop, but he overextended. Needs to be a little bit careful on the back end here. He does have a lot of healing, a lot of sustain, as they are just trying to poke and prod WE out of their base.
All right, okay. Maokai down, Tree down, ultimate away. That has been the key factor for TT in the winning fights. Hope though.
Oh my God, Hope goes in, does almost all of Yucal's health and damage. Yubu has gone mega. The last inhib falls, super minions aplenty as WE work on the Nexus Towers here to finish out the game. Hoya and Hwanfeng are the defense. The Meganar comes out. Hoya no longer exists. And neither does TT's hopes, it feels like, in this game. The first Nexus Tower falls, the second closely after. As Hwanfeng, Yucal, you gotta make something happen here. Here goes Yucal, here comes Beishwan.
Back.
They don't got the engage there. It goes golden, big shock blast from TT, and Yucal's come to town. They find Hung, they find a Quadra. Can you get a Penta? No! Shanks denies the Penta, denies TT, and Shanks will be the monster of your nightmares.
He is the demon in the night. He is the emperor in the mid lane. This game, Azir gameplay in the late game, TT were that close to once again threading the needle, but they couldn't quite make it happen. I am shook, Mazel. I am shook. That should not have been that close for TT. Make it so close.
Oh my God, we almost had a double penta. That would have been insane. Oh, what a finish from WE to close out a clean 2-0 over TT.
Hang on. Say that again. Close out a what, Mazel?
Close out a clean 2-0.
Clean 2-0.
On paper, it's clean 2-0. You see a 2, you see a dash, and a 0. That's clean, right?
We might have to take it some vocab lessons on that one, because I'm struggling to believe it was quite that simple. But
oh my goodness,
there's a lot to take away from this.
What a final effort, at least from TT, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I mean, because it became increasingly obvious as that last game went on that WE were basically fighting a battle between what can we take away from TT in terms of the big ultimates, and TT did a better job towards the last couple of fights of denying WE the real ultimate disadvantage fights, and you can see how close it got. I really do want to praise UCAL despite the losing series in that second game. Pulling out a Jace from the mid lane, it's fairly hard to do. That should have been a game where UCAL lost early lane, ended up having some value later in team fights in the side lanes, but instead he won the level 1, ended up being able to unlock himself and get onto the map and make things very difficult for WE, especially